It took 50 years of waiting, but Desert Financial Arena is finally getting the upgrades they need. Sun Devil fans are in for a brand new game day experience.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, your guide, your expert to all things Sun Devils, from the gridiron to the hardwood and everything in between. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, so on today's agenda, we are finally getting our updates to Desert Financial Arena, when we know when it's going to start, why it matters, all that good stuff. They're not just fixing it, though. They're going to enhance the game day experience. And is all of that going to put some pressure on Bobby Hurley? All that is coming up on today's show. Before we get started, thanks to each and every single one of you for tuning into Locked On Sun Devils to make us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. So we got to talk about the amazing news that Desert Financial Arena, where Sun Devils basketball, men's and women's, play their games, is finally getting some upgrades. Now, I can appreciate a rustic, older feeling arena, right? Feels a little nostalgic. At some point, you just got to make some changes. And it's taken a long time. We're 50 years. I mean, that's older than some of the younger generation's parents are. I mean, we're talking before the 80s is when we last got any changes, any updates to the place, when it was built, everything like that. This is an old stadium. It's been in dire need of these upgrades. And we've had the whispers going around since Graham Rossini took over as the Arizona State University athletic director. We've had those whispers. He's mentioned before that this is something they want to get done. We have finally ironed something out. So, according to Rossini, this is going to be a multi-year project. It is going to get started next year, 2026, following the spring graduation. It is going to be worked on throughout the summers. It will not be worked on during basketball season. And obviously, you know exactly why. So this is what we're looking for. And I love that it's a multi-year project, because what that tells me is you want to take your time. You want to be able to make all of the enhancements that you need to be able to make. You're trying to make that game day experience better, which is what we're going to talk about a little later on in the show. So I'm a fan of this taking whatever amount of time that it needs to take to get us to that point. So throughout the show, I do have a few direct quotes from Rossini, and I want to start with this one. Quote from Rossini: "We're hard at work on finalizing a plan, already put about $10 million plus into it over the last 18 months. So we already have $10 million that are spent for behind the scenes stuff. That's mechanical stuff. That's electrical stuff. That's life safety stuff. All that good stuff. The facelift for the arena itself. When you go in, everything you see, the seating, the amenities, all that good stuff, that is going to start next year, next summer. Like I said, it's going to be done after the May graduation, and then that's what we're going to be working on multi-years, not during basketball season, all that good stuff. So Rossini says that an official announcement for what's going to happen to the arena is in short order. And that'll be something that we have to talk about down the road when that does get introduced to us, because there's some things that I would like to see. So when it comes to the game day experience, I mean, are we talking just completely re-innovating, redoing from top to bottom the seating section that's inside the stadium? Can Graham do me a favor and just get me a media box that isn't 10 people because it's cramped and there's not even 10 seats in that thing. I would like to be able to go to games and know that I have a seat for myself when I am in attendance. So what all is that going to look like? How different are the bathrooms going to look? Which I know is definitely something that a lot of us care about. Is not feeling like you are just going in a sewer, essentially. How are the food stands going to work? How is everything going to feel? I'm also really curious how they organize all of the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame stuff, because you go through Desert Financial Arena and just all along the walls as you go through the entirety of the stadium is pictures and not monuments, but just stuff like that for you to go through and read about X player and why they're in the Sun Devils Athletic Hall of Fame. What did they do for the program? What did they do outside the program? What records did they set? What they do at the professional level? All that good stuff. So I want to see how that's organized as well. Is that still going to be around the arena? Is that going to be something that Rossini plays around with a little bit? I don't know. I'm curious if there's going to be major overhauls inside or if we're talking about just clearing things up and making it more modernized. And that is the goal here. This is all about modernizing the building. This is about making it live up to the potential. Now, we've talked previously about how a lot of a lot of kids when they're coming out of high school and they're trying to decide where they want to take their collegiate athletic careers, that the facilities matter a lot. That's one of the reasons why ASU football has taken its step forward is we have seen enhancements to the facilities for the kids to work out in. The stadium got some major upgrades several years ago. It helps. It really does matter aesthetically for these kids, but also to know that you have whatever you need. That has not been the case at Desert Financial Arena. And we know for sure, it's been confirmed previously that has driven some of these kids away is they don't feel like they have everything there that's going to set them up for larger success, right? There are things that other programs around the country have. Arizona Wildcats probably have fantastic amenities when you consider they're one of the better basketball programs on an annual basis. Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, UCLA, there's tons of programs around the country that definitely have much better amenities than what the Sun Devils have. And it's causing them to lose out on kids. And now that you have a little bit of more money available to you to be able to spend on NIL and just pay the players and stuff like that, the next thing you got to do is make sure and provide them with what they are looking for. All that good stuff. It really does matter whether you agree with it or not. These are things that the kids are taking into account right now. You got to modernize everything. You need to unlock its potential, if you would. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what Rossini is saying when he says unlock its potential, because if you've listened to the show or you just know me, I've said like demolition the stadium and just rebuild it. I've pitched that ASU should be looking to play their basketball home games at Mullet Arena. In the meantime, I don't know how realistic it is, but that's just been my pitch recently. But Rossini says unlocking potential, whatever that looks like. I'm going to trust him because he's a businessman who knows infinitely more than I do about that stuff. But it's the age of the building and also living up to Big 12 standards to compete with the Big 12. Yeah, I mentioned some basketball programs. I didn't say Kansas or Houston, or I know Texas Tech probably has some better stuff right now, but it is going to impact recruiting. This is going to impact fan experience. This is going to help ASU in event hosting for the long term, create a better reputation, all that good stuff. Bottom line, this was long, long overdue, and it's finally happening. This is what we know so far. How is it going to enhance the game day experience? That's coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's time to talk to you about our friends over at Game Time. If you've decided to make a last minute addition to go to a ballpark with your friends or family, well, trust me, sometimes you can get you can not find as good a deal, but maybe you try out Game Time next time. In fact, you should try out Game Time next time because that's where they come in. They make it easy to grab your last minute tickets without any stress. With the money you save on your tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merchandise, or even have a bigger group come with you. Game Time makes all that possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app will actually go down closer to the first pitch. They've got incredible last minute deals. They have clear seat views and their lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Game Time, the official ticketing partner of Locked On Major League Baseball, is making it easier to browse the app for exciting upcoming games, my Diamondback fans, or anyone else. And again, you can check out those seats before you buy, and that way you know what to expect. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks as always for tuning into Locked On Sun Devils and making us your first listen of the day. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. So, what are the ways that your game day experience is going to be enhanced? Because we can talk about that until we're blue in the face. Oh my goodness, let's try again. We can talk about that until we are blue in the face. Quite frankly, there we go. Talking is hard, but it doesn't really matter if we don't know exactly what we're getting. So here's the thing. With all the upgrades that are coming in, as you would imagine, people are going to want to go. It's as simple as that. People love going to Mullet Arena. And it's not just because ASU hockey is really, really good, but it's the fact that the experience that is provided for fans is just 10 times better. It is modernized the way that things should be. I mean, we're not talking about hardwood benches and water fountains where the water coming out is still piping hot and you get splinters just from walking. Like this is a stadium, right, that we can enjoy. That's a very big deal. So again, another quote from Graham Rossini here. And this is definitely a reason why they are holding on to the arena that I have said demolish. So Rossini says there's great history. We want to tell those stories throughout the concourse. Again, the next phase, or the first phase, I should say, for the renovations is going to start next year. They're designing a better game day experience. So it's not just repairs. It's not just making things cleaned up to where you feel safer. Not that you go into Desert Financial and you feel like the roof's going to collapse. I certainly don't feel that way. But they just want to overhaul the experience for fans. Like I said with Mold Arena, like you go to the stadium, you're going to have a good time. You're going to see a good product, which first and foremost is the most important thing. And that's something that they got to fix later on, which we're going to talk about with the whole Bobby Hurley basketball thing. That's where we're going to end our show. But it's just about providing that better experience. So the concourses are going to be updated. You're still going to be able to maintain the history and tradition throughout the stadium. Like I said, I am curious how that's going to look. Is it still going to be just paved along the sides of the walls? Are there going to be certain areas that are designated for that kind of stuff? I don't know, but I'm really intrigued to see what that ends up looking like. But they want to maintain that history and tradition. Rossini said that the building is just capable of more than it is, and I certainly agree with that. But I mean, I feel like you're talking about a pretty low bar for the kind of updates that you can provide for it. So wait and see, I suppose. But another thing that's really interesting is there's going to be new restaurants around Desert Financial Arena. The Novus Corridor is something that was mentioned specifically a handful of times by Rossini, is now going to be one of the bigger key components of that game day experience. The better food being able to be provided to you. It's not stale popcorn anymore. It's going to be stuff that is, as Rossini says it, become the place to be at for pregame and postgame kind of stuff. So you have ASU wanting to dial in all of these things. But another thing I think is really, really important here is that ASU is still committed to staying inside of the campus area. One of the things that I've wondered to myself is why the ASU baseball fields require an Uber drive, require an hour walk from your housing, right? It's not overly convenient. And ASU baseball is a staple of the history of the athletics for the entire university. They are, for all intents and purposes, a blue blood for college baseball. There are several World Series titles for them, but that's neither here nor there. That's a whole other conversation. My point is that kind of drives people away from wanting to go to baseball games, even though it's a good team, even though it's a competitive team. It's basically an inconvenience, honestly. I'm not trying to drive to a place when I'm a college student. First of all, I might not have a car. Second of all, I might not have the money for an Uber. So now I got to walk. And newsflash, it's pretty warm in Arizona. It's inconvenient. So the fact that they want to not only renovate DFA, but they also have the intention to make sure that it is localized to the stadium to the campus. That's a big deal. And that's something that I wanted to take into consideration as much as possible when I said demolish the arena, have them play at Mullet Arena for however long they need. You're still hoping it's in that spot, but maybe they looked at a different land plot and now you're talking about relocating the stadium. So that is a really good decision to make sure that it's staying at DFA or at least in that area should the name rights be bought out or anything like that. You want to make sure that the basketball games remain on campus, they remain accessible, especially because if, as we're hoping, the basketball team will start to improve, now it's going to be more accessible because, again, pointing to baseball, the baseball team has shown improvements over the last few years. Whether or not Willie Bloomquist is the guy to maintain that, I have no idea. But when, not if, ASU baseball starts to get peak again, I still don't know if it's going to have the elite attendance from the students, at least, that you would like. If ASU basketball is able to start improving, then you can still count on the students being there. Maintaining your spot on campus, very, very important. Now, another thing that Rossini wants to make sure is that the game day experience is almost like a community event as well. Like people are influenced and invited to come out and just enjoy what's going on. It's not just like a 2-hour basketball game. They want to be able to have people come out and just enjoy themselves, which, as you would imagine, creates a much more intense, exciting atmosphere for going to the games. These are things that matter. So I love seeing that. Something interesting he tossed out, we'll see how it goes down the road, is to potentially have and host more events. So he's mentioned concerts, he's mentioned student events. I'm interested. They want to make Desert Financial Arena year round, not just an in season sort of experience. That in itself is a lofty goal. But I mean, it's not impossible. And there's not a ton of venues on the East Valley that host shows and concerts and stuff like that. Like, I know you still have, oh man, I don't even know what it's called at this point, but I went to a concert a couple of years ago. that's right off the freeway. I can't think of it, but a lot of your stuff is held at the Cardinal Stadium or the Footprint Center, which is more like Central Phoenix. You've got it at the old Coyotes Arena. Like a lot of that is Central Phoenix or West Valley. If you introduce another venue, first of all, maybe you get more people to come out and tour Arizona. Not that you're having that problem, but I don't know. Maybe it does draw that attention, but you're also allowing yourself to just provide that opportunity. No one wants to play at a rundown arena. People want to play at a nice experience that gives you that opportunity. So just something food for thought there. The bottom line, though, again, this end goal is to just make the game day experience much better, to influence and attract people to go to the games, to go to the events. The comment to make it a community event is something that really stands out to me. You want people to feel welcome. And I think that's an awesome goal. Something that I certainly have not thought about. My entire goal with all of this has just to make the stadium better. But that that's something interesting. I'm curious what you guys think, though. Let me know in the comments how you feel about that comment. But we've laid everything out. There is a big looming question now. Maybe the biggest that we've had to talk about, and it has to do with Bobby Hurley. That's coming up next on the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Sun Devils to make us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. So we've talked more than once, and we'll continue to talk more than once about Bobby Hurley. BFH, right? Bobby F. and Hurley. There's pressure on him going into this year to save his job. He is on the last year of his contract. And Graham Rossini made the decision to hold on to Bobby Hurley. He could have decided to fire him. He didn't. I understand there was a lot of financial not problems, but a lot of financial implications that came with firing Hurley that made it a very difficult task to do. But they could have done it. They could have. Instead, they're holding on to him. And it's not made a lot of fans happy, and rightfully so. I'm right there with you. I've defended Hurley for a long time. I simply cannot anymore. The team they assembled last year with Shane Quaintance and Josan Sanin, Amir Ali, Adam Miller, all that stuff. And they got nothing out of it. Losing record, crushed in Big 12 play, obviously did not go to the tournament. They somehow went to the Crown tournament. Pretty cool. Until they got bounced in the first round by Nebraska. Like, it was not even remotely what we were hoping to see. And that whole team is gone. By the way, the team was not the issue. The team was not the issue last year. ASU had several good players, right? Adam Miller, Sean Phillips were phenomenal every minute starters. You are losing like Olsen Mason and BJ Freeman were just out of eligibility. Bashir Jihad was out of eligibility. But you had Sean Phillips Jr., you had Adam Miller for at least one more year. Jaden Quaintance, the highest recruit the program has ever landed, had to play 2 years of college basketball. He is projected to be one of the highest picks for the 2026 NBA draft. He's probably got really good odds to be the number one pick. He did not stay. He decides to transfer to Kentucky. Josan Sanin, another super high recruit. I think he's the third highest recruit the program has ever landed. He wanted to be one and done. He could not be one and done because the season didn't go the way he wanted. But instead of staying at Arizona State, he goes to St. John's, and they're going to put together some good stuff for him. But Miller's gone. Sean Phillips is gone. Amir Ali, another high recruit, is gone. You're out. You're out on a ton of players from transfers and from just running out of eligibility. This is a brand new roster that is coming in. So if you didn't have a ton of pressure already mounted on you, you have even more now. This is maybe the biggest roster overhaul that Hurley has seen. I know there was a lot of changes following COVID, but I don't remember it being this drastic. There's only one player who's returning from last year's squad, Trevor Best. Now, Best did really come on at the end of last season. It's important to remember he was able to be an early enrollee because he graduated high school in the winter. So he was able to early enroll. He was able to get on the court. By the end of the season, he was one of your better players. So bringing him back, really, really big deal. What do we do, man? Rossini had a few things to say about Bobby Hurley. The biggest one is, according to Rossini, I believe in Hurley. His back's against the wall. I'm excited to see how he responds. We're maybe hoping to be well balanced and less star reliant. That's certainly going to be the case because you do not have stars on this team. You needed Quaintance to return. You were probably losing You were probably always losing Shannon. If you had held on to him, at least the hope for this program would significantly grown. But you needed Quaintance. You could not lose Quaintance. That was a non-negotiable. I said that from the start, and you lost him. That was brutal. But losing him, losing Shannon, and the rest of the guys, yeah, Rossini's right. There is no star power on this team. So you're going to be looking for collective effort from these guys. I won't call them misfit toys, but I think that's the best way to describe them is you're assembling a roster of quality guys who have had success at varying levels. Junior college kids, Division III kids, guys who are coming in from high school, maybe some other smaller colleges. They've had some success, but now they're going to Arizona State, obviously a power program, but also in the Big 12, which is like the conference for basketball, right? So yeah, there's no star power. And that is not meant to be offense to any of the guys on this squad. Okay. This is not a shot at Maurice Odom. This is not a shot at Asante Holloman. This is not a shot at Marcus Adams. That's not the case at all. It's not a shot at the incoming class. You just are going with big time unknowns. There was not any massive transfers that were added. There were not massive additions that came in through the recruiting class that were on nearly the same level as Quaintance and Sannon. There is no star power. So Rossini's 100% accurate in that. So his comment to be more well balanced, interesting. I wouldn't disagree at all because you are not going to feel the need to force the ball into your best player's hands. That's a good thing because we've seen at the professional level and in the college level that you can be carried by one or two players, but it's very difficult to do. ASU was not able to do that last year. You could not consistently put the ball in Jaden Quaintance's hands and expect to win games. He did a lot for you. He cannot win games by himself, and that is not on him. Same with Sannon. Same with Amir. Same with Adam. They could not lift the game by themselves. But at the same time, you had so much going on with those guys that you just weren't able to get complete, consistent games. How many games last year did we see Adam Miller go off for 20 and then have under 10, right? That was something that was a consistent factor in the basketball team last year. And as you would imagine, it led to a lot of losses. So maybe Rossini is on to something here with a more well-balanced approach. I'm not hopping on that train just yet. Not at all. And again, this has nothing to do with the players here. I am not insulting any of the guys, but we can't deny that none of them are Jaden Quaintance. Okay? That's where this starts and ends. But I am excited by the thought process of well balanced. I think that's the best way you can look at this is hoping that ASU can have a well balanced basketball team to have that attack, right? We'll see. But Rossini, at least according to the things that he has said, feels that Hurley can turn this around and feels or it appears as if he has the belief for Hurley to turn around. By the way, how does this have to do with the arena? Well, in the famous words of one Deion Sanders, you look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good. You play good, they pay good. The aesthetics are going to make these guys feel better, but it also severely helps recruiting. Remember earlier in the show, I had mentioned that ASU has lost out on kids, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, who have toured the university, saw what Desert Financial Arena has to offer for amenities and for facilities for these kids to use. And it turned them off. They were like, no, that stinks. I don't want to use that. I want something better. And if I go to X program, I am going to have better amenities, better facilities, better opportunities to work out, get better, improve, and feel good about myself. DFA does not have that right now. So that does improve your ability to recruit. By the way, recruiting has never been a problem for Bobby Hurley. Never. He has always been a terrific recruiter. It's not a coincidence that he has more than half of ASU's highest rated recruits since they started tracking that. In the modern era, of the top 25 recruits ASU's ever landed, he's landed like 17 or 18 of them. That's not an accident. Elite recruiter. He brings guys to the program. We've had multiple 5-stars. It's not just Sannon. It's not just Quaintance. We had Josh Christopher. Marcus Bagley was really close to a 5-star. Bache was close to a 5-star. You notice a trend, though, those guys did not get nearly enough development at Arizona State that they deserved and should have. And that's an indictment on the coaching. So Hurley's got to improve there. But the one thing that they do have going is the way he recruits. Now, if you find a way to make that recruiting even better, you take a guy who knows how to talk to these kids, who knows how to sell a program. But now you add the actual beauty and not to say this word over and over again, but the aesthetics of everything, they matter. They really do. And now suddenly this is a very attractive spot for these kids. You start funneling in more and more talented players, which they're already doing, but now it's even more consistent and you're probably landing even higher players. So Hurley's got to figure this out because that opportunity is there and that saves your job when you bring in those caliber of guys. It also puts heat in the seats. People want to go to the stadium to watch these guys. It's not a coincidence that ASU basketball had a much higher, I can't speak on behalf of attendance, but there was a lot more conversation about ASU basketball this past season than there was in previous years. And it's because of the talent that was on the team. There was stuff to watch. People bought into ASU basketball, which makes it that much of a bummer that it was a letdown. But that is how Desert Financial Arena can help Bobby Hurley. Okay, we've talked about Hurley. We've talked about whether or not he can save his job. We've talked about how high the expectations are. One of the things we haven't talked about is how Desert Financial Arena and a facelift could help him out. Now, the problem is it's going to be a few years before he can benefit from that. But you get through this year, and they're going to be starting next summer, which means by the start of the 26-27 season, there will be some upgrades, and maybe they'll prioritize those upgrades the way they start everything to help out with their facilities. Desert Financial Arena. This is a long overdue and very exciting renovation for the entire athletic department, for the entire university. Long overdue. Long overdue. What are renovations that you want to see? Do you think these changes will be able to help basketball moving forward? And is this a vote of confidence from Graham Rossini for Hurley and, a last chance opportunity to prove himself? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter at Richie Brads36. Make sure to follow the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Thanks, as always, for making Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. A special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're getting your shows. Make sure those notifications are on so you never miss an episode. Again, I appreciate you guys as always. Plenty more to come up on the show. July is around the corner. We got to start making our previews for the football season. I'll catch you next time. And until then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.